Have you ever had a chair give way underneath you? That can be a pretty painful experience, whether to your pride or your butt, or both, I don't know. Now, when you've been able to count on a thing, and then that thing has failed you, it creates hesitancy. When you go sit in a chair, again, you might do so a little bit cautiously, perhaps even explore the condition of the next chair you go to sit in. Why? Because a sense of trust has been broken. And that sense of trust needs to be built back up before you flop down into another chair without thinking twice. And that is the nature of trust. It's earned through experience. The disciples have seen Jesus. From Mary's encounter with Christ to the 10 disciples locked away hiding in fear, encountering Christ, all of them have seen Jesus now except Thomas. He wasn't there. We don't know why he wasn't there, but he wasn't there. But when the news came to him that they all saw Christ alive, he says that he's not going to believe it until he can physically touch the wounds of Christ. Okay, I get a little bit squeamish around like people's insides being on the outside. Maybe you're the same way. I once cut off a piece of my finger while I was chopping vegetables, and the sight of a piece of my finger on the cutting board, like I just turned white as a ghost, got nauseous, and had to go sit down. So I have a harder time with this passage for that reason. Like, why would you want to touch it? This is gross to me. I'm sorry. But we have to remember that John is writing in the style that is meant to be more mystical and symbolic. He messes up the timeline of Christ's life on purpose to communicate a point. He uses language and imagery that's meant to be poetic, and he communicates details about events that have double meanings, like the topical and the spiritual. He's very, very gifted at writing in this way. So touching the wounds of Christ is meant to be read in the same manner. Christ's wounds are for the world, so they are also encompassing the world's wounds. Contained in the wounds of Christ are all the wounds of the world as well. And Thomas is a soul that has been wounded. Now, Richard Rohr sees Thomas's desire to touch the wounds of Christ as a way of seeking union with Christ in his woundedness. So he actually wrote this. He said, Thomas is not doubting the reality of the resurrection. He is simply trying to touch the wounds of a world in pain, as though to say, I will not believe in a world that is not healed. Thomas's desire to touch the wounds is not just about seeking proof of the resurrection, but about acknowledging the reality of suffering in the world. Not just physical wounds, but emotional, psychological, and spiritual ones as well. And seeking a path towards healing and transformation. Now, this is a central theme of Christian spirituality. When we acknowledge the wounds of another as being real, we can participate in the ongoing work of Christ in the world. The other disciples did not need this extra encounter like Thomas did, but Christ honors his request. He's not doubting Thomas as much as he is hesitant Thomas. You see, when we acknowledge another person's hardship and get in proximity to touch it and interact with it, we meet them as Christ met Thomas. Now, having wounds ourselves and being vulnerable about that, we can then offer them up as an act of solidarity that helps the other feel seen and not alone. Some of the most powerful words someone can hear in a moment like this is, yeah, me too. You're not alone. You are not insufficient. It's just really that hard. That space of kindness strengthens us. That's where the power of God is felt, more than muscling through anything that you could just power through. This story is an invitation to see another person's reality and honor it with a compassionate presence. And we are the ones referred to at the end. Blessed are those who believe, who don't see.